Hey, welcome back to Ministry Architects. Guys, it's the end of the year. Where did it go? How did it happen so fast? You know, we got started here, and I cannot believe that we're staring into 2025 like it. And I just want to encourage you guys, Habakkuk 2:2, make the vision plain. I believe that 2025, I don't have a good rhyme for it because I didn't use AI, but this is the day, this is the year of open doors. What's so interesting is I was starting my morning, I needed a good black shirt, and I'm skimming through, and I really felt like the Lord said to put this shirt on. I'm like, yeah, it's 20 degrees outside, Lord. I'm going to put flannel on, then I'm going to put another jacket on. And for some reason, I just felt like the Lord say, wear that shirt. And I don't know about you guys, if that's how you guys are intimately talking to the Lord, but I've gotten so accustomed to just talking, thinking, working, partnering with the Holy Spirit that it comes down to those small details. And so days going on, recapping, getting everything closed up shop for 2024. And the team's like, bro, you owe me 2 videos. I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, we need 2 videos to end out the year. And I'm like, okay. And so I did the one, you guys caught it last week, the B-roll, what it looks like to get our first big outreach crusade done. And then I'm like, well, I'll take my shirt and I'll just work with this. And I look down, I'm like, man, if that's not prophetic, that I was already, Lord was like preparing me that I didn't even know what I was going to need to do. And it was for this episode, it was for a message for you guys to understand that the open doors are coming. It's our job to knock. It's our job to plow, but you got to have a vision so that you move into it. Because remember, if you're 1 degree off and you're walking for 5-6 miles, you're traveling, look how far you're going to trail off if you don't have that plan to keep you on the straight, the narrow. And it's not that you're like, oh, I don't want to fall into sin. It's like you want to do what only God's plan is, only what God's will is for your life. Because so many times people set out with good intentions and they end up adding to God's plan, thinking that they're helping God, and it just turns into a mess. So rewind, I go to Texas, we're going to do ministry, things are going to be good, and this guy backs out, doesn't give the church to us. Now we're kind of stuck in no man's land. We rent a small little office, we're praying, we're seeking God, we're knowing that we need more. We had such good intentions. We're going to do a school of ministry. We know God's going to move in Texas. We know God, this is what God called us here for. I got a word from the Lord, and we, contended just to get the name out. At that time, nobody was using equipping. And so we were going to call it Equipping House. We were going to help people. And what do? We need a building. My wife's away at a worship school. And one of the people that are with us does I heard from the Lord. I don't know if you guys ever been in one of those meetings where they shut it down because they trump all the advice, all the things, because they got the word from the Lord that this is the building. This is the one we need. And I'm like the go-getter. I'm the excited one. I'm like, yeah, that's what we should do. And did you hear about the word? There's going to be a runway. We open up the back door and there's a runway. And they're like, see, this is how we know it's God. And so it made sense on paper. The numbers kind of worked. It was like 10,000 square feet for $5,000 a month. She's going to let us have it 4 months rent free. She's going to give us about 25 grand to upgrade it. And I'm like, that sounds great. We talked through the numbers. It's like, we got to hurry. We don't want anybody else to jump on it. If you know anything about real estate, you got to strike while the iron's hot. You don't want to let anybody in on a good deal. So let's get it. And I didn't think twice, and I made the horrific, what all husbands do is we do something without consulting with our wives. And so we write it, we sign the lease, it's all good. My wife's like, what did you do? And I'm like, don't worry, this lady heard from the Lord, this is the right building. And when she got back, she goes, I don't think this was the building. I'm like, no, you can't say that. And what I didn't tell my wife is we had tore all the carpet up and we knocked out about 8 walls. We were halfway through construction by the time she got there. Well, needless to say, We overspent the 25,000. We probably put about 60,000 more into it. Complete mess. 4 months go by, and you would think like you should be able to get everything done while we're volunteering and we're pushing so hard. By the time the 4 months came, the first rent check is due. Everybody on the team is gone. They're like, oh, we don't think this is of God. We're not going to do this anymore. And they left me and my wife holding the lease. And I had heard in the meetings that when they met with the landowner, oh, we're a church and we're doing the work of the Lord. And I'm thinking like, how do you bail with a building half torn apart? Even though they left me, who gets blamed for this is God. It gets blamed as the church, Jesus. And I'm like, I got to honor what my commitment was. And so we paid rent on a building we never used for over 2 years. And it was the most painful check I had to write every month. And so I tell that story is move on what God is telling you to move on. Do not move thinking you're helping God. And back in those early days of ministry, I thought I was helping the Lord by like renting a building. That would make sense. Like I'm getting a place so we can do worships, we can do trainings. And it was not inside of God's timing. And so even though there may be natural open doors, make sure that the Lord is telling you to walk through those doors, but then also have the faith and trust to walk through those doors that Christ is saying to go, where you need the faith, just as Peter walked on water. And so I'm encouraging you guys, make that vision plain, make sure that it's the Lord's, make sure that you get a download, go to prayer, verify it through some of your leaders, through people that you can get strong counsel, but you should have that release in your spirit. If you got a check, if you got like this doesn't feel right, don't force it, because it's going to cost you time and money. It'll set you back. And I can tell you this, I know that thing set me back almost 3.5 years. Did God use it? Even God says, I'll take your crooked path and I'll make it straight. You know, he redirected us to West Virginia. We are now here, great team, doing ministry, but he took something that was a mess and he cleaned it up and turned it into something. But it took extra time. It took extra money. It derailed us from his plan. So I'm encouraging you guys to run forward, to go through those open doors, but also use wisdom in making those decisions, that you don't become a wild man and just do whatever's in front of you and just be like, this is the Lord, because I've seen so many people do ministry that way and they're no longer in ministry 2 years, 4 years later, because they were wild. And I use wild man slang. It could be a wild woman. It could be a wild man. And you see these people pop up to rise on social media, and then a few years later, they're nowhere to be found because they weren't really in the things of the Lord. They were using God and manipulating his giftings, but it wasn't his plan. But when you seek out his plan, and the real reason is why we write it out to be plain is not so that God knows the plan. It's so that we know his plan, and it can be renewed in our spirits every day, sometimes every moment of the day, so that we don't get swayed away when a better opportunity comes. But the Lord has said, been faithful. You have been faithful with the little. You'll inherit much. And so open those doors, but stand in faith for the bigger than what you can do. Because if you can do it, then God's not in it. You want those things where you know God was in it, because without him, it wouldn't have happened. And that's for the miracles. That's for the greater than your reach. So if you're 6 feet tall, they say your span is 6 feet. My natural span is 6 feet. But if I want to do the 7, 8, 10, 12 foot span reach, I need the Holy Spirit to get involved. So we're looking for the things that I can't do in the natural. I want to do the more in 2025. I want to do way different things. I want to reach the people. And so we've got 3 already international mission trips planned before we step into 2025. We're scheduling close to 8 big compassion fests all over the country. We're contending, and I'm like telling the team, I'm like, Don't be surprised if the Lord adds more to our plate, a bigger team to our plate in 2025, because we've already got a portion of it figured out in the sense of like dates, plans that need to handle. But that's exciting for me. And I'm believing that you're going to be doing the same, because in this season, we've seen God show up miracles in the elections, miracles in our economy, and God is going to start doing things, but he's looking for the laborers. The harvest has been great since Jesus was walking on this earth, and they're still looking for the laborers. So I want to encourage you guys, get out, be the laborer of Christ, do what God has been telling you to do, but make sure you're doing that part. And when you do that part, you're going to feel fulfilled. You're going to feel refreshed because you're doing what you were made to do, and you're going to see the impact. You don't have to do it all. Just do what God's put before you and be the change that your community, that your family, and the ministry that God has called you to be. And you will see growth beyond measure in 2025. So I'm encouraging you guys, step out in faith. Don't wait. Do what God is telling you to do and run like never before. So guys, don't forget to like, share what you're hearing here. Comment down below in the great things that you're going to want to see God do in your life in 2025.